Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon.
I'm Amir.
Welcome to the Mustcast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and then click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. As usual, we'll start with media consuming. Amir.
I have been playing Elden Ring in all my free time. I got the game on day one, but my internet's a little bit slow, so I wasn't able to download it on day one. So I got it. I wound up downloading it, playing it day two. But because of work, I didn't really have time to play it. So like a week and a half went by, and I'd only played maybe like an hour and a half of the game. But I got to the first story boss. Also, oh no, there's this guy in the very beginning when you get out of the tutorial dungeon, and he's like, "Oh, you're maidenless, yada yada yada," and he's trying to help you. But I took offense to that comment, so I attacked him, and turns out he is ridiculously difficult to defeat, and he's also very helpful. If you don't attack him, he is a very helpful tutorial character. And I didn't get any of the benefits from him because I attacked him because he offended me. But I finally killed him.
I just see so many memes of people talking about the maiden. People keep calling you maidenless in that game.
It's hilarious. It is so funny because I'm just like, I know you know Tyler. Tyler and I, people on the podcast don't know Tyler, but Tyler and I have been like laughing about the maidenless memes since the game came out, and I was like, oh my god. And I really can't believe like I attacked that guy one time and then now I can't get any of the benefits from him. But I finally killed him. I wound up just running away from him until I was out of his range the first time. Cause he's ridiculous. But I got to the first the first story boss, not optional boss, the first story boss. And I still have yet to beat the first story boss, even though I've been playing like a lot more. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just terrible at this. But apparently, as it turns out, after looking online for a while, the first story boss is ridiculously hard and harder than a lot of other story bosses, like near the beginning of the game. And like the first boss is like the one of the hardest bosses. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense now that I'm actually losing this hard. Maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I am. I mean, I'm still bad at this game, but there's also no option to pause the game like at all, which is incredibly irritating. And I've only played Bloodborne. I played Bloodborne to about halfway. It's like I'm decently used to like Souls mechanics, but
talking a lot about something we're supposed to be talking about later. I just realized that.
I know. I'm sorry.
I was just spacing out low key, and I was like, wait, why is he talking about Elden Ring? We're talking about that later.
I'm sorry, my bad. This is pretty much what 90% of my focus has been on. I saw the Batman. I've been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine again because I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm on season 7 and I really don't want to like watch past that. I want to just kind of like restart because I do not have I have issues with endings, so I don't really want to end the show, but I'm gonna have to because every season just gets better and better. I feel like that's probably it. I played Destiny 2 The Witch Queen for like 2 days, and I was really excited about that. And I spent over $100 on the like ultra super mega ultra combo deluxe edition, and then never played it because Elden Ring came out, and I want to go back and play it because I spent a lot of money on it. I spent like over $100 on it, and it is really good from what I played, but Elden Ring is out, and I want to play Elden Ring, so I don't really know if I'm ever going to go back to Destiny until I like get significantly tired of Elden Ring. I feel like that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, for me, you've been watching Attack on Titan. I haven't watched the last episode that aired on Sunday, but Attack on Titan's still good. Was it Demon Slayer season 2 ended? That's fired. Animation that show is just so beautiful. I might have said that last week though. Watched Euphoria finally happened. Another great show. The last 2 episodes are really good. There's a play that happens that is just amazing. Still watching Bel-Air. That show's still pretty good. I haven't been watching Insecure. It's right here, but I finished up the first season. I'm on the beginning of the second season. Superman and Lois. It's decent so far. CW show, so it's doing CW stuff. I watched Mars Attacks. Have you ever seen Mars Attacks, the movie?
Of course, I've
Um,
seen Mars Attacks, that really old alien movie with like the giant bug-eyed aliens, right? Yeah.
here's the thing, though. It's not even that old. That movie came out like '96. That movie is so weird.
If it came out before I was born, it's old. I'm sorry.
That movie is really strange, but it's funny. I've rewatched The Mummy. The Mummy's still really good. I need to watch The Mummy Returns. I haven't seen that one in a long time. Do you like The Mummy? I like The Mummy. The Mummy's a good movie. It's a good action adventure movie.
I've only seen the first Mummy. It was pretty good.
Yeah. And it made me go like, if they decided to make an Uncharted back in the early 2000s when Uncharted first started, or at least around Uncharted 2 when Uncharted got really popular, Brendan Fraser also could have been a really good Nate. I watched the Uncharted movie because where was it? I decided to go see it with my brothers. Wasn't bad. I actually liked it, and I think that as the franchise goes on, which it will because it made a lot of money, it'll only get better. Personally, at least I would hope so, because it wasn't very bad. Was it Tom Holland as Nate? He's okay. He's not the best, but I can see him getting better. I think that he just needs he's stuck in that Spider-Man box. Even when he's acting, he still feels kind of like Spider-Man, and I'm not sure if that's because I've only seen him as Spider-Man, or if it's literally because he's so used to playing as Spider-Man that it's hard for him to turn that off. I still stand by all the things I said about the castings before, about how I would have preferred either like a no-name actor who better fit the character. Like, who's his name? That one actor's son, the Western actor's son. I can't remember his name. Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood. I feel like he might have been able to be a good Nate. But yeah, Mark Wahlberg was just Mark Wahlberg. But surprisingly, him just playing himself actually works as a pretty good young Sully. The woman that played Scully was pretty decent. Overall, the movie was decent. It was pretty cool. I actually enjoyed it. And I'm excited to see what they do in the future. Of course, I've seen the Batman. We've both seen the Batman, and we'll talk about that later. So, moving on to current events. So, I want to start off by talking about the recent laws passed in Texas regarding trans children. So, Greg Abbott has officially directed Family and Protective Services to begin investigating all trans children in Texas and prosecuting their parents as child abusers. He has also instructed all teachers, doctors, and caregivers to begin reporting any trans students they see. He says if you have a duty to report in Texas, Texas is officially saying that you have to report trans youth to Family and Protective Services or risk losing your job. Needless to say, or not so needless, seeing as this law passed, it's despicable that families are being threatened with prosecution and being separated simply due to children wanting to feel comfortable in their own skin. For anyone looking to help people affected by this law, I'll leave a link in the description to a thread by at Aaron the Morn on Twitter of all GoFundMe's of parents of trans kids who need to relocation assistance out of Texas here. So yeah, I just felt like I needed to whenever stuff like this happens in the world, I feel the need to tell people about that on our podcast and give them some information so that you're just aware of the things that are going on and maybe you can help. But also wanted to talk about a previous episode we had where we touched on some trans issues. Amir, you probably know what I'm talking about. In a previous video titled "Is Dave Chappelle a TERF?" I discussed my opinion on a joke he made about TERFs, and I'd like to make some clarifying statements because I've talked to Amir about this, or maybe I haven't. I might have talked to you about it a couple of times about how I'm always thinking about that video. Like, if for some reason our podcast ever grows in popularity, people are going to go back and cherry pick what I said in that episode and make me look worse. So I feel the need to clarify and make sure that I'm not offending anyone, because I went back and listened to it a couple of times and I feel comfortable in what I said. But also there are a couple of things I said that I go, that might be harmful. I should probably let people know what I meant. So there's like 2 pinned comments under that video that I'll reiterate. They essentially go like this. As a queer Black man, I understand that if a marginalized community finds something offensive, I have no right to tell them that it isn't, and instead should listen. My intention was to give my interpretation of his joke and open a discussion about context and the complications of reviewing something without having seen it in full. Not to tell anyone their opinions are wrong, but I can see how my words could be harmful and insensitive. So if they were, I apologize. But moving on, another unfortunately sad thing. Russia has begun a war in Ukraine. Um, so the last information I had about how America is responding to this is Joe Biden has Joe Biden Joe Biden has stated that U.S. troops are deploying to Eastern Europe to help bolster NATO countries. However, they will not be fighting in Ukraine. Again, that was last I heard. This was like written a week ago, so things could have changed. Um, for those who don't know, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 28 European countries and 2 North American countries. I believe it is Canada and America, established in the aftermath of World War II. NATO constitutes a system of collective security where its independent member states agree to mutual defense in response to an attack by an external party. I don't know if you can tell, but I lifted that from Wikipedia.
I was gonna say that is a word for word the Wikipedia description. Like,
yeah,
not even.
because I didn't know how to describe it myself in my own words. So I heard a theory as to why Russia started this war, and the theory is that Ukraine was planning on joining NATO, and NATO is obviously a very powerful organization, treaty organization. So Russia felt threatened, and they didn't want a country that bordered them to join that effort. So they attacked them, and it always sucks when we get horrific news back to back. It makes you want to stay off social media for a few days. Like when COVID started, it just got annoying to see the same stuff regurgitated over and over again about what we needed to do to stay safe. But it needed to happen. But just because it needed to happen doesn't mean I need to see it or want to see it more accurately. But yeah, of course, I'm ever optimist and will hope for the end of this sooner rather than later. So moving on from the sad stuff in the world, animation. There's going to be a Nier Automata anime. Nier Automata is a video game I've considered playing. The only thing that keeps me from playing it is that it's not just a hack and slash, which it's a hack and slash, but it also, it mixes a bunch of different other game genres into it that I don't know if I'm interested in. I need to check out some more reviews because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm more interested in playing it because it's made by Platinum, which we talked about Platinum in our last episode when we talked about Scalebound being resurrected. They also made Metal Gear Rise Vengeance, one of my favorite hack and slash games, and they also made Bayonetta. So they make some really good hack and slashes. I'm interested. I might play Nier, and I'm definitely gonna most likely watch this anime, especially if it's good, of course. Comics. This is where you can talk about any comics you've been reading, Amir. But I'm gonna talk about my comics first, real quick. Radiant Black. We get some insight into Radiant Pink and Yellow's origins. Radiant Pink is a streamer, and Yellow is a tech support. His tech support is at a electronics store. They meet after Pink's mic breaks, and she goes to buy a new one. But I'm not gonna go too far into detail because I don't want to spoil it for anybody out there who wants to read. Radiant Black is essentially kind of like Power Rangers. It's I'm enjoying it. Nubia. So Nubia's finished this. I read its final issue, the 6th issue. Nubia fights Medusa, saves her Amazonian sister, and essentially turns Medusa back into a mortal and then allows her to become an Amazon. Because for people who don't know the story of Medusa in Greek mythology, the story of her story essentially is very similar in this comic. Is that she's one of the Gorgon sisters. They're all beautiful, but she was the most beautiful, and she was essentially sexually assaulted by Poseidon. Naturally, the old text won't put it like that, but they'll put it much more flowery terms. That's essentially what happens. And then she is cursed by, I believe, Hera. And then she becomes the
Athena, not Hera.
You saw what? It was. You're absolutely
Athena.
right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was Athena, not Hera. She was cursed by Athena. I'm just used to Hera cursing everyone. She was cursed by Athena, and she became, the person that you look at and turn to stuff. So yeah, Nubia helped her out, and now she's becoming an Amazon. The Flash. So this is the end of the arc that I was been reading. Um, Back in Central City, Ira, Wally's daughter, sneaks away from home in the middle of the night to meet her friend, and they're both kidnapped by metahuman traffickers who are, well, they're not even trafficking metahumans. They're trafficking normal children and turning them into metahumans. Her brother Jay follows the traffickers and breaks them out. It also turns out that Ira's friend is the daughter of Animal Man, which is interesting. So she has his powers. And I never realized, well, I guess I did realize it. I just never thought about it too hard, is that Animal Man is basically poor man's Vixen. Uh, he's just not as interesting as Vixen to me. Like they basically have the same powers.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I don't.
Hold on.
He's not as interesting as Vixen to me, bro.
Have you ever read the original Animal Man run?
No, I didn't.
Never say that until you read the original Animal Man run.
Look,
no, Animal Man is one of the most interesting comic book characters, specifically because of that run. You have to read that run first, or at least know about it.
I'm gonna have to check it out, okay? Because I don't dislike his character. I'm just saying he's not as good as Vixen to me. But
he's much better. You have to.
He'll never be better than me. Even after I read this, he's not gonna be better than Vixen. Vixen deserves.
You say this, but you don't. You say this, but I can tell. I can tell you don't know what what it's about.
Even if I do like him after this, which I don't dislike him, it doesn't mean I'm gonna like him more than Vixen, bro. It's just not gonna happen.
I promise you will. I guarantee, because it's right up your alley. I know for a fact you will.
Okay, maybe we'll see. But anyway, the kids can sense their father is in trouble through the Speed Force and somehow magically teleport to him. I forget how. It's been a while since I read this issue. In the end, Wally, well, they stop Eclipse, you know, superhero stuff. And in the end, Wally's wife Linda somehow has super speed. So instead of giving her cancer like Peter did to MJ, he gave her some of that Speed Force. But yeah, I read DC Pride #1. Makes me excited for future DC Pride issues because it was pretty good. There's a collection of a bunch of short stories featuring queer DC characters. My favorites were Batwoman's The Questions, Renee Montoya, and the Flash from Future State, and Aquaman, because in Future State they were dating, and naturally in this there was a story about those two, and the Flash not wanting to be late for their date because you know Flashes are notoriously late, but they made it there on time. This Flash is non-binary, by the way, for people who don't know. And I want to see more of this Flash. This Flash is cool. Apparently, they will be appearing in the current Flash run pretty soon, which is dope because they popped up in Future State and then they disappeared and was never seen again except for this in this one issue of DC Pride. That first, dude, I'm gonna get to it at the very, very end, but I am falling in love with Wonder Woman. Well, I already like Wonder Woman. Batwoman as a character, bro, because I've been reading Batwoman comics, and this first short story in DC Pride, the art is beautiful. First off, amazing. I forget who the artist is, but I'll put him up on screen. And the story is dope. Man, that one's just great. And I'm gonna start reading some more stories where Renee Montoya is the question. Hold up, excuse me. All right, Nightwing. So I read what was the issue? I forget what it was, what issue number it was, but Nightwing was asked to check on John Kent while Superman was off-world, so he wanted to go do that. There's more to the story. I haven't read the Superman issue that ties in with it, so I have to check that out. Batgirls. The Batgirls are after a graffiti artist that's using art to mind control people. And I read Batman Year One. It's great. You know, I see why people. I see why people say it's like a quintessential Batman book. It is amazing, and I also I wasn't planning on doing it because I watched the movies and I didn't care too much to read the comic, but I also have purchased The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, so I'm gonna read those. So yeah, I'm just.
We'll have to talk after you read both of them.
Yeah,
personally, I like. You said what?
Batman Year One like solidified why Batman is my favorite superhero, because it's much like how remember the first time we started talking about Bleach on this podcast, I almost made you stop watching it because I was talking so bad about it. And if how I feel about Bleach is how I feel about Batman sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, is Batman my favorite superhero? And certain things happen that make me go like, is he though? But there's always that one thing that I consume that makes me go, all right. Undoubtedly, on a personal level of like how he's affected my life as a character watching cartoons and stuff, as well as just how good his best comics are, like solidifies Batman as like my favorite superhero. Like
Yeah, no.
this comic like reaffirmed why Batman is my favorite superhero. I love this comic. Batman Year One was so good, and also reading this and then going to go see the Batman pretty much a week after I read it helped me appreciate. I've always appreciated him, but appreciate Jim Gordon more because Batman Year One focuses a lot on commission. Well, he wasn't commissioned at the time, but on Jim Gordon, and Jim Gordon's a great character, and he's great in the Batman. But again, we'll get to the Batman later. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I would say Batman Year One is my favorite Batman comic of all time. I'm so mad because at this the latest Comic-Con that we had in our city, Frank Miller was there, and I was gonna go get him to sign my Batman Year One, and I didn't have enough money because it was like $500. And I was like, all right, well, never mind.
I mean, got to make that money. We live in a capitalist society, but goddamn.
Right? I'm like 500. No, thank you. I'll forge his signature. I don't care.
Just tell people what it is and then sell it.
I wouldn't even sell it. I would just keep it forever and just lie to him.
Yeah, but he didn't really sign it. So you could buy a new one, and with the money that you make, actually get him to sign it.
That's a good idea, actually. Wait a second. Hold on. Now
we came up with the perfect scam.
We just put this on an online podcast. I cannot do this anymore. Damn it. All right. Well, if you don't cut that part out, okay. So when you read both Long Halloween and Dark Victory, we gotta talk because I gotta know which one you like better. Because personally, I like Dark Victory a lot better than Long Halloween, but everybody's favorite is Long Halloween to the point where like Dark Victory almost never gets talked about. So I gotta know which one you like better.
Yeah, part of the reason I want to read Dark Victory is because I haven't read many comics where Dick was Robin, like at all. Like, because I was born in the year 2000. Most of the comics, like he's Nightwing at that point. He became Nightwing in what, the 80s? So like he's been Nightwing for my entire life. So I don't read many comics where Dick is a child. And other than the cartoons, I haven't experienced him as Robin very much, or the Adam West series that I watched a little bit of when I was younger. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see just learn more about Dick's younger years. Isn't there also a Robin Year One comic? Is that any good?
There is, and it is. I was gonna say so. A while ago, I was making a Dick Grayson to like Robin and Nightwing reading order for myself, and so here's what I'm gonna recommend you and anyone else looking to read more of Dick Grayson should do. Right, so read Dark Victory. Then, as soon as you finish Dark Victory, pick up Robin Year One, and as soon as you finish Robin Year One, pick up Batgirl Year One. Like they're not necessarily like direct sequels to one another, but the way that they are written is like they could very well be direct sequels to one another. Like you could pick them up one after the other.
Yeah, for people who are interested in comics, and comics can be very confusing, complicated sometimes on where to jump in. Batman Year One is the perfect Batman comic to start with. It's called Batman Year One. It starts from the beginning. It's a good comic and it's a good place to jump in. The only thing I disliked about that goddamn comic book is that all of Bruce's inner thoughts were in cursive, and I was struggling to read that shit.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily struggling to read the cursive, but Bruce does not have good handwriting. He needs.
I was sitting there reading like, did a doctor read this? And I'm like, his father was a doctor.
That is true.
His father's handwriting.
I'm just like, from like a multi-billionaire with a British butler raising him as his father, you would really think he would have better handwriting, but I guess not. Like,
I don't know. His hand probably shakes from breaking his knuckles so much. I don't know. But Batwoman, Volume 1, Elegy, and New 52, Volumes 1 through 3, and a little bit of Volume 4. Batwoman is so damn good, bro. Like, anybody interested in getting into Batwoman specifically, start with Greg Rucka's Batwoman, Volume 1, Elegy. It's a perfect start. It's literally because Kate Kane as a character wasn't really invented until like the late 2000s. Batwoman existed as in Kathy Kane, and she had her sidekick, Batwoman, but they were created as love interest to Batman and Robin so that DC could convince the public that Batman and Robin weren't gay lovers because people are weird. But eventually, Kathy Kane faded into obscurity, and Betty remained Batgirl for a little bit, but of course, eventually Barbara became Batgirl. Betty was the first Batgirl. I forgot to mention that. But eventually, Barbara became the iconic Batgirl we know her as. And Betty became a Firebird. And yeah, so Kate Kane re-envisioned as Batman's cousin instead, and a lesbian woman. And her story is so freaking cool. She is slowly becoming one of my favorite DC characters. And seeing how good her comics are is making me so mad about how bad the first season of her show was. I haven't watched the second season or third season. I'm not interested in watching either of them, if I'm being honest. And it doesn't even star Kate Kane anymore, because Ruby Rose had left the production because she was being treated very badly. And someone else is playing Kate Kane in that series, but she's not like the main Batwoman anymore. But yeah, Takami's just like, how much do you know about Batwoman? How much have you read of Batwoman?
The only issues of Batwoman that I've read have been a little bit. I've read her short stories in Urban Legends from the Urban Legends issues that I've read. I've read her in the majority of the Gotham Knights story arc in Rebirth, which she's in a lot in. She's one of the main characters in that series. She kind of takes, it feels weird to say she takes the place of what Batman would have been in that series, but she does in the early issues of Rebirth Detective Comics up until Tim Drake's death. And I do like what I've read of her, but I haven't exactly like gone in and read more of her, if that makes any sense. Because I don't know, I haven't really had the interest to. Like, she's a cool character from what I've read, but not enough to make me actually go pick up a comic.
But yeah, whenever you do, check out Greg Rucka's run with which was essentially just Detective Comics, because she didn't have her own comic at the time until New 52, like a year later. And it's just so good. She has her own rogues. Like one of the only Batman rogues that really pop up in these last few volumes have been Killer Croc for a very specific reason. And but the rogues that she had, whether they existed before her comics or not, I don't know. Other than, well, I don't know. That's kind of spoiler. I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to spoil that for anyone reading it who's gonna read it. But there's one rogue that that is kind of like her Joker that is really cool, named Alice, who named herself after like Alice in Wonderland and stuff. That's really cool. But there's also this one dude who's like a werewolf, who's not even really he starts off as like a villain, but eventually they basically just start working together. And he helps her out a lot. And you know how I feel about werewolves. I love me some werewolves. But there are other were people who aren't wolves, and this one is like one that can turn into like an octopus, and he's a part of this thing called what are they called? The Religion of Crime. It's very strange. But Batwoman's comics delve way more into really almost more into the fantastical side than Batman does. She deals with a lot of like ghost and like ghouls and like universal monsters type stuff. And I think that's where her character fits perfectly because she looks like a vampire. She is pale as hell. Even with the suit off, she's extremely pale. I always thought when I was first reading it that when she was wearing the suit, that she would like put makeup on her face so that it would be harder for people to recognize her, like her jaw and stuff. But no, she takes it off and she's literally just as pale. And she has red hair. She's wearing black and red. She looks like a vampire. And all of the villains she's dealing with are, they fit that theme. And I think that they low-key need to lean into that even more about how all her villains are essentially like these universal monsters like mummies and vampires and werewolves and giant alligators or crocodiles. And Man-Bat would be a good person for her to go up against. I'm also a sucker for romance. There's some decent romance in this with a specific character. And yeah, you should definitely check it out. Batwoman's good. She also has a a very intrinsic connection to the military through her parents that I think is super interesting about how she got trained to become Batwoman. It's similar to how Batman did it, but they go into more detail, and the stuff she went through is brutal. I'm not sure exactly all the specific things Batman went through, but what she went through was brutal as hell. One in particular was like watching videos of like murders and listening to people being murdered to prepare herself for that type of stuff. It was crazy. But yeah, you got any comic stuff before we move on?
I don't think I've read any comics in the past couple weeks. Caught up on Nightwing. I haven't read the new John Kent issue, even though I really want to. That I plan to do that today, and I forgot we were recording. I was like, oh shit, I don't have time. So, yeah, no, that's on my list to read next whenever I get the free time. Did I ever talk about Department of Truth on this podcast? I really hope I did.
Yes, you have.
Okay, yeah. I haven't not read a Department of Truth issue in a minute, but yeah, that's pretty much the only comic that I've been like keeping up with aside from like Nightwing. So yeah, no comics for me.
All right, so moving on to TV and film. Apparently, a God of War series is being developed, I believe, for Amazon Prime. Was that the one that they're doing it for? I can't remember, but I think it was for Amazon.
Yeah, it was Amazon Prime.
And you know how I feel about this type of stuff. I always think it's possible. It being possible doesn't mean it needs to happen, but I could see it working out well. The thing about this is, me and you both agree that a lot of these things could work. It's just that for some reason they always mess it up because they don't have people who actually, or either people who aren't even good at their job of making movies, or people who don't understand the source material and why people like it and how to translate that well. That's always the problem. Is either someone who's bad at filmmaking or someone who doesn't understand the property that they're developing, adapting for film or TV. And this is a series. I don't think God of War needs to be a series. I think it should be a movie because I don't think his story needs to be elongated, personally. I think it should be very short and sweet, and to the point, because especially at the beginning, he's very angry. He's very murdery. Like he should have like maybe like a 2-hour long movie of angry murder killing. And story, of course, there's story to that. There's reasons why he does these things. But honestly, 2 hours might even be too long. Hour and a half, really. Or maybe hour 45, like of that. Like this series got to be brutal. And it's gonna be live action. I don't know if I said that. And I don't know. I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. I wonder how they're gonna do this. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't like God of War, so I don't really care. I'm not a God of War fan. Like up until God of War 4, and even then I'm just kind of meh. So
Okay. You suck. But what was I going to say? Oh, somebody mentioned like Genndy Tartakovsky making a God of War animated series, and I thought that would be cool. I always talk about Genndy Tartakovsky making a Metroid animated series because he makes very not quiet, but atmospheric and speechless animated series like Samurai Jack, the Clone Wars anime series, and his most recent one, Primal, which I don't believe any words are spoken because the characters are cavemen and animals. And he would just be good at it. And I feel like his art style would really fit a Metroid anime series. But Tartakovsky is also working on a feature film, a Sony produced animated film called Black Knight that's going to be R-rated. I'm interested to see what that's going to be. So Disney Plus, parental controls will be added to Disney Plus on March 16th to allow for more mature content. And the first of that mature content on Disney Plus will be Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, The Defenders, and The Punisher. They're moving all of that stuff from Netflix to Disney Plus. So we're gonna start getting some violent stuff and some sexual stuff. That sounds weird. It sounds like they're gonna start adding porn, like you know what I mean, like R-rated, mature stuff on Disney Plus. So they're probably gonna eventually add Deadpool movies to Disney Plus because they're not already on there, right? Um, and they'll be making new stuff that's more violent. So they're gonna make another Daredevil season. We know this. Whether it's gonna just straight up be a season 5 or a reboot, kind of, who knows? But a lot of these characters are coming back. Again, I didn't like the dude who played Iron Fist, but you know, I hear different things about how either they didn't give him enough time to practice the choreography, or he refused to do the choreography, whichever one it was. Hopefully with the budget, time, and money he'll be getting paid for working with Disney, his performance will be much better with better writing, with more time to do certain things, and he could be a better Iron Fist. I also would like, I don't want to body shame anybody, but I mean, you're a Marvel character, man. You can put on a little bit more muscle, not muscle, but tone. He doesn't need to be buff. Like the shape, like the size of his body was perfectly fine, but a little bit more tone would go a long way. But yeah, you liked him as Iron Fist. I thought the show was okay. I thought the woman who played Colleen what is it? Colleen, what's her last name?
Wing.
Wing, there it is. Because I was like, is it Wing? I was confused for a second, but yeah, I'm interested in what they're going to be adding. Michael Giacchino, who did we talked about his scores for the Batman and Spider-Man, The Incredibles, and Lost, will be directing a Halloween short for Werewolf by Night. For people that know, that's a Marvel character who is a werewolf, if you can tell by the title, and that's the comic where Moon Knight debuted. So obviously this is going to tie into Moon Knight in some type of way. Werewolf by Night will, I'm going to say 100% show up in Moon Knight, and then this October we'll be getting a Halloween short of Werewolf by Night. I like me some werewolves. I'm interested in this. So here we go. The Batman. So it was good, man. How'd you like it?
It is, in my opinion, my not humble, super ultra Batman, never stopped reading Batman comics fan, the greatest Batman movie, as well as the greatest DC movie, one of the greatest comic book movies, just all around, just chef's kiss perfection. It was everything I wanted and more somehow. All of my hopes about the movie were filled. All of my fears about the movie were proven wrong. It was so good. It was so good.
It matched my expectations perfectly. It was exactly what I thought it would be. It was a good movie. In a lot of ways, it did Batman better than a lot of things. In some areas, I think that it was done and better in other movies, but we'll get there. Overall, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. If I had to give it a score, it would be a 4 out of 5. And it's a solid movie. It's a good movie. I think it has its flaws. And we'll get to that. But first, let me just do my little spiel. I know we're constantly talking about the music, even before the film release, but the score is amazing. The music is so good. And actually, you've heard Catwoman's theme at this point, either in the movie or outside of it. What do you think about her theme? Because we never talked about it last time because you didn't hear it.
I listened to the theme before it came out, and I liked the theme. I listened to the whole soundtrack before it came out.
Yes, that's
actually, the day that I saw it, so I saw it 2 days before official release. Wednesday the 2nd for the fan first event. And I had something to do beforehand. Before I went, I had some errands to run. On my way running errands, I was just listening to the soundtrack on Spotify, just on repeat. So good.
So I did the same thing when I went to go see Spider-Man. I listened to the 3 main characters' themes on my way there. I first listened to the Batman theme, then I listened to Catwoman's theme, and then I listened to Riddler's theme as I was like walking up the stairs to get my ticket. Riddler's theme is so good. And I didn't notice it until watching the movie that it's essentially Ave Maria. His whole theme, I never noticed it when I first listened to it. but his theme is literally just Ave Maria. And I did not notice that at first. It's obviously very different in a lot of ways, but it has that same cadence. Um, to me, Batman feels connected to Gotham in a way that I never felt in any of the other films. Mostly because he interacts with so many different characters, and not just privately, but in like crowded places. Like he walks through a nightclub, he walks through crime scenes. Like he isn't just like in the Nolan trilogy showing up at GCPT, and showing up in random places to talk to a criminal and like get information out of him every now and again. Like he's just walking through crowded places, like on the regular. He's also going out in the daylight more often, I feel like, in this film that and I've seen in most other films other than Batman. I feel like Dark Knight Rises is the most. I've seen him in the daylight. But yeah. I also never felt the fear criminals had for Batman as much as I did in this film, because at the very beginning, they make it clear he has them all shook to their core. They just see a shadow and think it's Batman coming to break their arms. The depiction of Gotham's corruption and the way Batman and Gordon finds out by slowly digging deeper and seeing how deep the corruption goes, I thought was really cool. And also their relationship in general was great. And you can see how they'll become great friends over the course of this film series. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman she was great. I loved the way she fought and how quick and fluid her fighting style was. But speaking of fighting, I didn't like Batman fights. I didn't like Batman's fights. They remind me of, they weren't as bad, but of him fighting in the Dark Knight, the Nolan trilogy, where it was much worse than Nolan trilogy. But here it was better, like significantly better. But it's like peak is definitely for me the warehouse scene in Batman vs Superman. It's just nothing beats that right now, and I'm looking for something in between that and what we saw in the Batman. He's early, year two. He has room to learn, of course. But even then, I don't know. There's something about the choreography, the way he was moving. It just didn't, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it very much. The action scenes didn't really entertain me, other than the fight scenes. I won't say the action scenes. There were action scenes that entertained me. But the fight scenes didn't entertain me very much, if I'm being honest. How did you feel about the fight choreography?
It was perfect in my eyes as someone who is both a martial artist and who watches a lot of MMA and combat sports. It was the most realistic as far as fighting goes out of any live action Batman. The hits were hard and brutal, and he was efficient as a fighter. And I loved that. And when enemies went down, he went down with them and then made sure that they stayed down, which is great. It wasn't just one hit to the jaw, they go down, he turns to another person. And then in a real life situation, they would get back up and hit him in the back of the head. No, if an enemy went down, he was either stomping them or he went down punching them. It was it was so good. I cannot. It's too good.
I get that. But honestly, I'm tired of grounded Batman. I don't need him to fight realistically. I need him to be a monster. I want him to destroy people. Like we've gotten enough grounded Batman. I don't care about grounded Batman no more. Let him destroy people. I want him to take people out efficiently and fast. Like I'm not talking one punch, they're knocked out. Unless they can sell it. Like, unless you're like, who is it? He's not big enough to sell a one punch knockout. But I'm sure there's a way they could film it to make it be like he's hitting someone hard. But I don't need one punch knockouts. I like that he was like you said, he was making sure they stayed down and weren't going to get back up and hit him in the back of the head. Like, I didn't hate the fight scenes, but there's something missing in them that that I just think that I would like to see, and that's just him. It's definitely the Arkham games influenced me, as well as the not even the animated series. The animated series, he fought like this. He would get his cape pulled. He like in the animated series, they show him he's not the best fighter in the anime series as he is in any other adaptation. And I felt like it was kind of similar here, to where he could beat up a bunch of people, but he can get overwhelmed very easily. But yeah, as he grows as a character, I wonder if we'll see him just become a more vicious fighter who can take people out very quickly and much faster. We also didn't see Batman be much of a ninja in this movie. I'd also like to see that a little bit more. They see him.
I I want to get in here a little bit for this. So I feel like that was intentional. At first, it was really throwing me off. Can we talk spoilers, just like minor spoilers, not like super big? Like,
Sure. No, actually, spoiler. We're gonna talk full spoilers. I should have been said that.
okay, so in one scene near the start of the fight, or near the not near the start of the movie, near the sort of like in the first half of the movie, he goes to the iceberg lounge because he needs to talk to Penguin. And now you may be expecting him to play this situation out like, you know, you would expect Batman to play the situation out, right? Maybe sneak in through like a back entrance or a back window or something, or maybe you're like, oh, he'll wait in Penguin's car for him to like come into the car and like sneak him or something like that. What you don't expect is for this man to be playing the Sifu club scene and walk through the front door and just start beating everybody, like beating the mess out of everybody. I swear to God, I've only seen the movie once and I plan to go see it again very soon. But I swear to God, he punched at least 3 innocent people on the way in. He was not holding
I think
back.
I think that was my favorite fight scene in the whole movie. I think that was the one that I liked the most.
It might have been mine too. He just went crazy. He went absolutely nuts on everyone, and I loved it. But later in the movie, and like at first I was like, oh, I don't know that I like this because like I feel like Batman should be more sneaky. Later on in the movie, he does the exact same thing, or he's faced with the exact same situation where he has to get into the iceberg lounge, this time for to help somebody. And instead of doing it like he did the first time, he actually does it much more stealthy. And I think that that's going to be a theme further on, or like throughout this movie, is like how Bruce evolves as Batman. So he definitely has his ninja moments, which I thought was great. I thought it was really cool that he did that and he actually went through and snuck his way through the same exact situation where the first time around he literally played it like Sifu. I will not stop saying that man was playing Sifu for the first half of the movie because he really was. But like it was the evolution, like you see the evolution
It
on
was him. It was him dying and replaying it and learning the shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. He replayed the level. He was like, I'm doing
That
it
was
no death
my
this
favorite thing
time.
about this movie is seeing him evolve. So, um, like that was my favorite fight scene, and I like the way I want more fight scenes to go is like that. But I imagine that, like you said, he'll evolve, he'll get better, he'll become more efficient, he'll sneak around more often eventually and take people out quietly. And then when he does get into a fight with a bunch of people, like as the series goes on, he'll become more efficient and better at it, and just take people out like that. I'm more excited for the future of this movie than I am about this movie. This movie is great though. But I'm really excited about the future, but we'll talk about that at the very end. It's about the actually not before we even get there. I think that the revelation of what Thomas did and its fallout happened way too fast. Like it was literally in one scene, he goes to Falcone, or as they call him Falcone. I've always called him Falcone. He goes to Falcone. Falcone tells him what happened. Obviously, it's very clear he's lying. And then he, like in the very next scene, he goes to Alfred and Alfred sets him straight. And I'm like, wait, what? You just resolved that in like 5 seconds. It didn't get to linger. We didn't really get to feel the full emotional weight of that. It just happened and went. It was just went and gone. I didn't like that. I think that storyline, that aspect of the story, it happened way too quickly. I feel like. I think that, well, he first found out when the Riddler told him, but then he immediately went to Falcone. Then he went to Alfred, and I just felt like that whole thing played out way too fast. I think that I think that he shouldn't have found out the truth until like the end. I don't think he should have found out the truth that quickly.
See, no, I disagree, and I have a caveat to it. I don't feel like it was too fast, but I also don't necessarily feel like we were given the truth. Even Alfred said at the end that he wasn't sure, and or that he wasn't sure and he would never be sure. But he was talking about Falcone killing his parents, but
there's a sense there, at least to me, that he wasn't just talking about who killed Bruce's parents. It was also that he wasn't sure of the truth. Like I feel like he's still lying to Bruce a little bit. And
I don't think that was the case. I think he just wasn't sure how, like, who killed his father or why. I think that he was telling the truth about, like, about his father, like, going to the police. Like, he was going to go to the police and, like, rat Falcone out.
I disagree. I disagree. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, but I disagree. Also, real quick, I just want to say here, because this reminded me, I was kind of hoping you would mention this scene. Bruce is so unhinged and angry throughout this entire movie. I wasn't sure. I was not positive that he wasn't just gonna clock Alfred like in the bed. Like his jaw started to get set, and I was like, Bruce, don't punch this old man. Do not punch this old man in his hospital bed. Please don't do it. Because I really thought he was about to just go crazy and just really like knock the mess out of him. I was like, don't do it, Bruce, please. And he didn't, thank God. But I was genuinely worried. I was like, this Bruce is unhinged enough that I really am not sure that he's not going to punch this old man in a hospital bed. God, I love this movie. Oh my God. I want to go see it again.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced that he was that unhinged that he would knock Alfred out in the hospital bed. But let's talk about the Riddler. So I thought the Riddler was a good villain, but he wasn't great. I like the Zodiac Killer and Saw vibes mixed with a dash of social media influencer, because a modern Riddler would 100% live stream his crimes. That was great. But upon my first watch, because I've only seen it once as well, Paul Dano's like performance, or Riddler's like presence in his film, I don't truly know how to describe why it didn't do much for me. It didn't. It just didn't. It didn't. It didn't really hit that hard. It's similar to how I feel about the fight choreography. I enjoyed it, and there was one. There were sometimes where it was really good, and sometimes where I was just like, okay, that's all right. It's cool. It suffices. And I felt the same way about Riddler. There were parts where, especially early on, he's really good, and then I feel like as it get towards the end and they finally catch him, I'm like, what is your plan, my dude? Like, I get it. You're going after the elite. You're going after the rich because they're corrupt, and you want to show everyone how corrupt they are and their corruption. I don't understand why he flooded the city. I also, maybe I missed it. I need to see it again. It didn't feel like that was being set up at all. Like, where did they ever say that Gotham was below water level? Because when that happened, I was like, wait, Gotham's below water level? When were they going to tell me this? Did I miss a scene? When did they tell us that Gotham was below water level? And when did they ever make it seem like Riddler was going to blow up the city? It caught me off guard, and not in a good way. I was like, what's happening? Why is it happening? This makes no sense. Did I miss something? Did you see it? Like, do you know why that happened? Explain it to
I
me.
know that they hinted towards it multiple times during the marketing, specifically because a bunch of different people covering the movie all talked about the fact that they think that Riddler was going to flood Gotham. I didn't see it. I would have to rewatch it. And now that I know what I'm looking for, I can look for clues. I don't feel like it just came out of the blue, though. With everything else in the movie, I feel like probably we missed something, because it doesn't feel like this is not the movie where I feel like they would just throw something in randomly just to add stakes, because everything in this movie is with purpose.
I'm going to be looking for it in my next watch, because I'm like, I had no clue Gotham was like below the water level, or that he like I don't feel like it was ever hinted at that he wanted to. I still don't even know what his goal was by flooding the city.
But at the same time, real quick,
that seems like a
same
Joker move. Like, Joker would just flood the city just because. Why did he do that? He has to have a reason, and I don't feel like they explained the reason why he flooded the city very well. Like, I understand why he had those gunmen up there to shoot the mayor. That was to take out more people he thought he was corrupt, or he and the people he's working with thought were corrupt. But to flood the city, I don't get that.
The thing with that is, and I feel like maybe it even goes in more into the movie, into the fact that he did flood the city and we didn't see it coming, and that Batman didn't see it coming either. A lot of the time with psychopathic serial killers in real life too, which we know that Matt Reeves pulled a lot from a lot of various media and real life to make the Riddler, there's not always a reason to us, or like a logical reason to us, there is always a reason in the killer's mind. Like 100% of the time, there's always a reason why they're doing this or why they feel like they're doing this, but it doesn't always make sense. And maybe that was just an artful choice. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I
but
have no clue.
killer throughout the entire movie was set up as a person who we know why he's doing this, because he tells you. He makes it clear that you know why, but he also kind of misleads you because he wants you to fall into his traps. And a good thing, stories like this, when something like that happens, you want it to be, you want there to be clues that this is going to happen, but you also want to make sure that nobody figures out those clues, except for maybe a select few very watchful people who eagle-eyed viewers who will actually notice it. But the majority of the audience will be watching it just going, oh, I didn't see that coming. But then you rewatch it and you go, oh, that makes so much sense, but I didn't see it. And here it just came out of nowhere. And I feel like it was just like, bro, again, maybe we'll rewatch it and we'll have that, oh my God, it was seated the whole time. Like, if that happens, this might be the best Batman movie ever. Like, if that were to happen, it might be the best Batman movie ever. As of now, personally, I don't think it's better than Dark Knight. It's a good movie though.
That's
Dark Knight's really damn good, man. I'm sorry.
That's an L. I don't even think Dark Knight is the best Nolan film out of the trilogy. Personally,
watch it again. And I was gonna watch Dark Knight yesterday, but I was Sunday, but I was tired. But yeah, man. This is my second favorite Batman movie after The Dark Knight. But again, I need to see it again. And I need to rewatch The Dark Knight because it's been probably like a couple years since I've seen it. So, what do you think about the Riddler in general?
I thought the Riddler intro was. This is a family-friendly podcast. I'm trying not to cuss. I already cussed once. I'm really trying not to. But the Riddler intro in this was amazing. Now the way that it started, I was like, oh, we already talked about this, but screw it. I was like, oh, it's Batman watching this guy.
At the beginning, I thought that was Bruce and his parents.
I did too. I was like, okay, so why is somebody watching Bruce and his parents, and then, or why is someone watching the Waynes? And then after that, when it when you started like looking at the skylight, I was like, oh, maybe this is Bruce. Maybe Bruce is like watching this dude for some reason. And then it cut inside the house, and I recognized the house from the trailer. I was like, oh, okay, but what's gonna happen now? And then he stepped away, and Riddler was behind him. I was like, oh my God. There's not a lot that like scares me, and I don't like jump scares. I think they're cheap and stupid and really like try harder. Like, come on now, they're no fun. But that was a great jump scare. I liked that. Like, there were no sound cues. There was I love that scene. I love that scene so much.
Yeah, that it was good. Like, they definitely set you up to think that this was the Waynes and that this was like a hitman that was like stalking them, and then like that's how his parents were gonna die. But
I think that was done on purpose too.
Yeah, that was a good subversion. I like that. They made us think that it was Bruce, and like that would have been an interesting setup, like that it was a hitman and that they died on Halloween or something. That would have been cool. Like they went out trick-or-treating and that's how they died. That would have been interesting. But yeah,
that's why it's the long Halloween, because for Bruce, Halloween is every day. Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, as much as I love the arc of Batman discovering that he's inspiring the wrong people and instilling fear in everyone, even the people he's trying to protect, I'm not sure how I feel about how it played out. I need to see it again to really analyze all this stuff that I have criticism about, because I don't know, there's something about how he figured that out that just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't really have the words to truly describe why I didn't enjoy his discovery very much. Apparently that dude who said I am vengeance at the end showed up before. I didn't notice him. I didn't recognize him. So again, whenever you watch, I probably will. But yeah, I don't know. Something about that just didn't rub me the right way, the way it was handled. But I do like what they're like. I like the idea. It's much like a lot, even though this movie is almost 3 hours long, there are some places where it feels like things are rushed, and that's weird. This movie's really long. But there are some storylines that I feel like happen in a brief amount of time, like in like 15 minutes they're resolved. And I'm like, bro, this movie's 3 hours long. Stretch it out a bit. But anything to say before we talk about the future of this franchise?
Most of all I want to talk about is the future of this franchise, but I love Catwoman, and I'll say this. I'll start with saying this. There's not a single character I didn't love in this entire movie. And that's great because all the confirmed and rumored spin-offs, I was really worried I was gonna be like, I don't want to watch any of these. Why are these happening? But no, I really did not think I was gonna like the Penguin, or that I was gonna want a Penguin spin-off, because like who just wants to watch like the Penguin do crime stuff? Like that's just make me watch The Godfather. Like no. The Penguin is hilarious, and I cannot wait for that show. Catwoman was amazing. She actually may be my favorite character in this entire movie. I kind of like her more than I like Batman, which I also didn't think was going to happen. And I loved Gordon in this. And I know the GCPD spinoff show has now turned into an Arkham show or an Arkham Asylum show or whatever. But like, I was really looking forward to a GCPD show because
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like them changing it from GCPD to Arkham, and it's gonna be like a what did he say it was like
a horror movie. I like the idea, I really do, but at the
like
same time, I don't feel like they should have taken the GCPD show away because I'm excited for the Arkham show, and probably just as much as I am for the GCPD show. But I don't not want to see that GCPD show, man. I want to see it.
Yeah, I definitely would not be surprised if they introduced Harleen Quinzel through like an Arkham series. Especially since it was confirmed that Joker is in Arkham.
And I loved that. Oh my God, I love that scene so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they introduced Harley Quinn in that Arkham series, because she works as a psychiatrist in Arkham. So that would be interesting. Speaking of Joker, let's talk about the future of the franchise. Around the end of the movie, Joker, played by Gary, I think Keegan is what you pronounce his last name, who is Drew.
Barry.
Who
said Gary.
I said Barry. What are you talking about?
You said Gary. I swear to God.
I said Barry. I'm literally reading words on my screen. I
heard a G, and it was a hard defined G.
I said Barry. I'll hear it when I edit it. Barry Keegan,
okay.
who was Druid in Eternals, appeared in a cell beside the Riddler in Arkham, and they had a little conversation. I personally don't need to ever see the Joker in these films. I think we get way too much Joker in the comics, in the cartoons, and in live action. I'm Jokered out. If we get the Joker, I don't want him to ever be the main antagonist. I want him to be working with other people, or like in the background, or just doing his own thing, like Master of the Phantasm levels of Joker, where he isn't the main antagonist, but he's one of the antagonists. Like I don't need Joker at all, if I'm being honest. I don't need to ever see Joker for the next 10 years. I'm good on Joker. I'm all Jokered out. I've had too much Joker. But there are several characters that people have been bringing up to potentially appear in the sequels to this film, or any series that come about. And those are Mr. Freeze, Hush, and the Court of Owls. Matt Reeves specifically mentioned the potential of Mr. Freeze being the main villain of the second in the second film. So that's, I feel like, the most likely one. And the Elliott family was mentioned, of Thomas Elliott, who's Hush, was mentioned in the film. And I think it's way too early for the Court of Owls, but I wouldn't be surprised if they seeded that. And
finally, someone else says it. Thank you. And everybody's like, Court of Owls. Batman, what? No, wait.
It's way too early. It's way too early. I think that's like a end of a trilogy type villain. Like if they end up only doing a trilogy, I feel like they would end it with Court of Owls. But if they go longer than that, then like in like the fifth movie, they should do Court of Owls.
I was actually gonna say fifth movie, like, because it's Batman found out about the Court of Owls
by the time he found that out, the entire Bat family up to Damian was a thing. He was well into his career and he thought he knew Gotham, and readers thought they knew Gotham, which is why it hit so hard. Do not do that in the first two movies. If you only do a trilogy, I guess at the end of the trilogy, but like go beyond a trilogy, because I don't even think that it would hit as hard if it's just third movie. Like, no, don't do that. Stop.
How are you feeling about Mr. Freeze? I like Mr. Freeze as a character a lot, and I'm interested to see him done right in live action, played by anybody other than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It'd be hilarious if Arnie gets cast, but he's like an amazing Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would be crazy if he came back and he played him again, but like really good.
Like Oscar-worthy performance. I love the idea of Matt Reeves doing a Mr. Freeze as a villain, and I'm very excited to see what he could do with that. At the same time, I don't want. People are all like, oh, grounded, grounded, grounded. I'm fine with my Batman being grounded. Don't keep the rest of the universe that grounded, or the like his villains that aren't super grounded that grounded. Like, I don't want like give me comic book Mr. Freeze, or at least a more realistic Mr. Freeze is not 100%.
Yeah, so for me, I think there's a balance between that they can do. With like Mr. Freeze, I feel like isn't so ridiculous that he will mess up how grounded it is. Like he has an ice gun. That's it. He also has a condition, obviously, that makes him wear a suit that has to keep him cold. Otherwise he'll die. And like cryogenics isn't like something that doesn't exist. So I feel like you can easily ground Mr. Freeze. It's some other villains that would be a bit harder to do. Specifically, there's one that was mentioned by Colin Farrell is a character that he personally wants to eventually appear. And that's Poison Ivy. And she straight up has powers. Like she can control plants. But you've watched Batman the Animated Series, and you know she doesn't have powers in Batman the Animated Series. In Batman the Animated Series, she uses seeds and like concoctions because she's a botanist to do things that looks like she has powers, but she doesn't actually have powers. So if they ever do Poison Ivy, I think they could do that if he wanted to not make her have powers and he wanted her to be slightly more grounded. There are ways to like for her to use things that are similar to her powers in the comics, but without her actually having powers and actually through, science. So I think there's definitely ways to make certain characters work. The weird, like the ones that would be hard to make work are like in a grounded universe are like Man-Bat, Clayface. Man-Bat and Clayface are the big ones. I think
Clayface has also been thrown around, notably.
Yeah, I want Clayface. I want Clayface bad. But I think the one that I think that could actually be done pretty well is actually Killer Croc. You'd think because he's a giant crocodile, he wouldn't be able to be done well. But the reality of the character is that Waylon Jones is supposed to be a black man with a skin condition. He's just a big black dude with a skin condition. And I think that you could easily do that realistically.
Just put prosthetics on Terry Crews.
Yeah, here's the thing. Terry Crews actually probably would be a really good Killer Croc. Here's the thing though. Suicide Squad, horrible movie. But they did win was it an Oscar? For like an Academy Award for, I think, special effects or maybe like makeup or something like that. Because of what they did with Killer Croc. I think that the physical proportions of the dude that was playing Killer Croc in that movie sucked because he had a huge head and his body looked really small. And he just wasn't big enough to be Killer Croc. If you I think, but the makeup and stuff and the effects they did on his body, I think looked really good. I think that if you do something like that on a dude that's actually big and make it look more like a skin condition, but that can also kind of be read as kind of like reptile scales. And I think you could do a pretty good Killer Croc. Me personally. And Bane, I don't feel like is hard at all. It's just a big Latino dude on drugs. You can do Bane properly. Like I liked Bane in Dark Knight Rises, but he was whitewashed, and in a lot of ways he wasn't Bane. So I love Bane. Bane's my favorite Batman villain.
Get a Brazilian dude on that.
Also, It might have just been adrenaline, but that stuff that he shot
That's what I was.
was too green. Here's the thing.
It was. I swear to God, it was Venom.
Dude, you cannot make a Batman movie and have a character inject themselves with something green and then turn into a giant rage monster and have people go, oh, it was just adrenaline. No, the hell, it was not. That was Venom.
That's what. Oh my God. I was like, oh, maybe it's just really souped up adrenaline, but no, that was green. And it was that tinge of green for a reason.
If it was going to be adrenaline, they would have literally made it any other color. But they made it green for a reason. And that's because it is probably Venom. And I am not going to be surprised when we see Bane, a proper Bane. And
they could have just made it like colorless, honestly, because like real life adrenaline is not that color of green. Like it's not green at all, to my knowledge. Like no, that was Venom. Nobody can convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I'm completely convinced that was Venom. You know what? A character I wouldn't be surprised to show up in the next movie is Harvey Dent. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up and he becomes like Gotham's golden boy, who's helping like root out the corruption and becomes good friends with Bruce, a version of Bruce Wayne who is now can't come out of hiding and is like doing more to help the city, and he's becoming more of the Bruce Wayne that we know. Because that's something I love about this, is that he's very recluse, but it's very clear that eventually he's gonna stop doing that and realize I should probably get out there and also try to help the city as Bruce Wayne. Do you feel like they could have pushed that a little bit more with some characters, like show people interacting with Bruce and telling him, hey, you need to do some shit, you rich boy. But maybe they'll save that for the next movie. In the next movie, they'll have people telling him like, hey, rich boy, help us. But yeah, I'm interested in what they'll do in the future. It'll be releasing on HBO Max on April 19th, from what I've heard, which is really soon. So for anybody who don't feel comfortable going to the theaters because COVID is still a thing, just in case anybody forgot, it'll be releasing in HBO Max pretty damn soon. So any closing thoughts before we move on about what you would like from the future? Because I realize you didn't really tell me what you wanted from the future. So go on your spiel, your rant.
I was gonna say I wanted to talk about what I wanted from the future. Can I do that? I can do that.
Go for it.
Okay. So firstly, I am already positive that Hush is going to be, if they only do a trilogy, which please don't just do a trilogy. Don't stop at movie 3 if you feel there's more that you could do, because there's a whole lot more, like an insane amount more that this entire universe could do. They set it up for a universe perfectly. This is how you set up a universe. So don't stop at movie 3. But Hush is going to be at some point in this trilogy, and I cannot wait, because they set him up as a villain perfectly, with the Elliots being like seen in a negative light, at least to Bruce, not necessarily like to the rest of the world, but definitely to Bruce. They are villains, and I like that because it was done really well. And oh my God, and this, I can already tell this universe is going to become more comic accurate as it goes on, specifically because of that Joker scene where he was like, riddle me this, or Joker gave him that riddle me this line. I was like, oh, now I know that when Riddler appears later, which please don't let Riddler just be some one-off villain, he's going to say riddle me this, and he's probably going to be
no, like they didn't they didn't kill him, like he's alive, like, so
that's what I was saying. I was like, please do not kill him.
Like,
please,
I definitely want the Joker to like influence him to become the Riddler that we know. Like he starts wearing green suits, like because he's influenced by the Joker.
That's immediately what I assumed was going to happen, because he and Joker are decent, like pretty good friends in the comics. Like, there's not a lot of people where that Joker can say he's like actually friends with. Riddler is one of those very few people. Like he and Riddler are friends, and I'm like, okay, so now we're gonna get bowler hat, green suit suit Riddler in the future, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited for that. Oh my God, this universe is gonna wind up being the most comic accurate universe. I'm giddy, I'm shaking. Like I cannot be more ecstatic for the future of this thing. And
I would definitely be excited to see it slowly become more like comic book accurate. If they ever, and this is something that they need to make sure they do, if they ever introduce the Al Ghuls, make sure they're Middle Eastern. Don't cast white people.
Yes, please make sure they're Middle Eastern.
And if
And
Damien
also,
ever becomes a thing, make sure he looks like a mixed child.
yeah, seriously, and not with like predominantly white features either. Like, oh my god. Oh, the things that I have to say about Damian Wayne. Anyway, also don't do what Christopher Nolan did. Give the Al Ghul's like actual power. I don't mean like supernatural power. Well, please give them the Lazarus Pit, like the actual Lazarus Pit. I liked how Nolan did the Lazarus Pit, but like give them an actual Lazarus Pit. I want to see green liquid. That sounds really weird. Never mind. But I want to see them like have like actual like international, like they influence everything. They are in everything. He started to do that a little bit, but that was kind of just Henry Ducard. I'm not gonna lie. Like his version of Ra's al Ghul was just Henry Ducard, which I didn't mind because I like Henry Ducard, but I want like full on Ra's al Ghul in the future at some point. Not necessarily in the first trilogy, just at some point. Also, I'm really excited to see Robin in this movie universe because
You know
this
what
movie
we need?
universe.
There are two villains we need in particular in this series at some point, and that is Kite Man and Condiment Man.
Honestly, I could really see them doing that. Like, it's like a joke in like the opening scene of like the next couple of movies. Just have like a one like really bad B-list, C-list tier villain,
Yes,
and that
that would
could
be
be like
awesome.
Condiment Man or Kite Man. Just like an opening scene. I would love that.
I would love that. It would be so good.
Um, and oh, I also, oh my god, I already know. I'm already positive. I know how Catwoman's gonna show up in the next movie, and please let it be the next movie. I don't want it to. I don't want to like have to go like 3 movies without Catwoman. Catwoman in this movie was amazing. Please give me full on Catwoman. Um, but oh my god. So, did you ever read Tom King's Batman run?
No, but I like
Don't.
what
It's
video.
terrible. What'd you say?
I saw watch some videos on it.
Yeah, don't read it. It's not great. There are a couple good issues here and there. And one of the good issues is there's an annual which basically like examines Batman and Catwoman's relationship, like their entire relationship from start to finish, like from start all the way up to like the far future where Bruce dies from old age. Um, and it like it starts out with Catwoman going into Wayne Manor and just like stealing something small, not anything like money or anything noticeable. I think it starts with like a pen or something laying on the desk, and only Batman notices. And then he starts like chasing her down, and she does that like every single night for like a year. I think she's like keeps stealing something small so that they can start up a little chase. And I'm like, I kind of want Catwoman to do that in the future, and I feel like she's either going to like no, she's either going to learn his identity in her own show, which still hasn't been confirmed, but I really hope they actually go through with it because Catwoman is great in this. She's either going to learn his identity like at the end of that first season or like in the beginning of the movie or something. I don't. Oh my god, I just there's so much I want from this
Since
universe.
since the manor is no longer in use because it was burned out. Well, it's in use. It's being used by a bunch of what they call it, drop heads. People who are doing the drug fiction.
Yeah, dropheads.
You think he's gonna move back into the mansion?
I do. I feel like he's going to rebuild the mansion and turn Wayne Tower into either a new orphanage or some sort of.
So I think Wayne Tower is still going to be Wayne Tower. I think he'll just build a different orphanage. But also, I think like he's still gonna like the tunnels connect directly to Wayne Tower, so he's just gonna use that like to get back and forth through the city and get to Wayne Tower very quickly and stuff like that. Like I wonder if he's either gonna make a new train to do that or if he'll just use the Batmobile.
There is a really did you read Detective Comics with Batwoman in it in Rebirth?
You said Batwing?
Batwoman.
Oh, Batwoman. And you said Rebirth?
It was the Gotham Knights one, the one where Tim Drake quote unquote died at the end of the first arc.
I didn't read it, but I remember hearing about it.
Okay, so in that, they actually, so the Belfry, which I feel like Wayne Tower could honestly become in the future, the Belfry connects to all these tunnels under Gotham, which Tim Drake sets up with like little subway cars for the Bat family to get around Gotham without being seen. And I feel like that's something that could really be used in this universe.
That could be interesting.
Like what you just said kind of reminded me of it. And I was like, oh, well, there are the subway cars in Rebirth comics.
But yeah, I'm also wondering, like, what if he only goes back to the mansion once his like family gets bigger, and he's like, we need more space.
That'd honestly be awesome. Dick is a thing. Dick goes, he becomes Nightwing. He is Jason, and Alfred's like, you got 2 kids now. We don't have enough space for all this. We need a house. And Bruce is like, I have the perfect idea.
Yeah, and
It's funny you should mention.
I'm not sure if I need to see Jason die if they ever bring him in. Like, I don't know. It's just we're used to the story. We know the story. I don't know. I feel like he needs to become Red Hood in a different way if they even want to go that route. Like, I feel like I don't need to see him die. Maybe he gets very, very badly injured and they never know if he'll ever be able to fight crime again or something like that.
I feel like the only way to me, because there have been a lot of alternate universe or a lot of like alternate views of like how Jason Todd becomes Red Hood without dying. The only ones that are what's the word I'm looking for? The only ones that are like satisfying to me are the ones where Bruce thinks that Jason is dead. Like there's White Knight where he was just beaten really badly. Joker found out his identity and then he just let him go and Jason joined the military. And then there's the Arkham games, which I don't like Knight or like what happens to the universe after Knight. We've talked about this a couple times, but I do like how he becomes Red Hood, or I guess the Arkham Knight or whatever, where Joker beats him really badly, like breaks his mind, but doesn't kill him and just sends him off to go get trained as like his own, or as like Scarecrow's personal assassin. And there are parts of that I don't like, but like if you don't want Jason to die, I still feel like Bruce has to think that he's dead. Because otherwise, I feel like Red Hood doesn't exactly work. But I could be proven wrong. I could be proven wrong in the future. But
yeah, I agree that the impact of them thinking he's dead is kind of important. But I think it would be cool if he like they thought he died, but he went off to like go train, like join the League of Assassins.
That's actually something I wouldn't mind. Like I wouldn't mind seeing that because it could be a combination, of like the Arkham games and then
or wait, bro, what if he was abducted by the Court of Owls? And he becomes one of their talents, bro. That would be cool.
I guess the thing about it is that the Robin, the Bat family member, even with Batman, the Bat family member with the longest and biggest ties to the Court of Owls is Dick. It just feels weird that it would be Jason. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see it.
That could be cool.
Personally, I would want Jason gets beaten almost to death by Joker, but he gets saved by Ra's al Ghul or Talia al Ghul in secret, and then retrained and like brainwashed to believe that Batman abandoned him or whatever, which then leads into Batman thinking he's dead, Jason feeling like Bruce has all these horrible issues, and then leads into the Al Ghul's I don't know, I feel like it ties into the Al Ghul's being like, oh, look at you without us, yada yada yada, you need to be one of us, blah 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 blah. And they like prove that they're superior to him by like stealing his shot. That sounds bad. By taking Jason away from Bruce. I really need to start watching what I say because like sometimes I'll say something and it's not what I mean it to sound like, but it sounds bad.
Yeah, I think that's enough for the Batman. But before we move on, actually, I want to say the 2 villains I really would like to see, like I want to see them in live action in general in a Batman thing, is Clayface and Man-Bat. I want to see those 2 characters in live action. And I feel like if they wanted to do like a somewhat grounded version of Clayface, he doesn't have to turn into a giant blob monster, but in some shape or form, he's still able to like disguise himself as different people. Like if they really like, he can literally change his face, and that's why they call him Clayface. Like, I think that would be an interesting take on the character in a realistic sense. But I would like to see the giant blob version as well. I would like to see that more so. And Man-Bat's just what else? How else are you gonna do Man-Bat other than that he just turns into a giant bat?
I feel like something that they could really learn from the MCU is everything in the MCU, and I mean everything, including magic, is very pseudoscientific. and like everything is some form of science. So like if you wanted a grounded but comic booky version of Batman, you could just do like some super weird pseudoscientific explanation for all of his villains, and I'd be okay with that.
But yeah, so moving on to video games, Forspoken has been delayed to October. It's a game that looks like it has interesting traversal, but overall it doesn't look like it'll be a very good game in my opinion. But I'm open to be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, it's got delayed. I know you're excited for that game. You got a little crush on the main actress, but
Of course I do, bro. That's my wife. You always have to have a crush on your wife, don't you?
okay, man.
You know,
So
I'm wearing a wedding ring right now, man. I'm married. I'm sorry.
Elden Ring. Based on a few reviews I've heard, Elden Ring is the first game to be compared to Breath of the Wild because it actually stokes the same sense of adventure as Breath of the Wild does. Um, from what I've heard, the open world feels varied and lived in. Your map isn't cluttered with a bunch of icons, and there's always something interesting in the horizon that draws your eye. Hopefully, more open world games. I say it all the time. Start to, take from Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and just makes it more adventurous and gives you less targeted things you need to do and just lets you explore the wild. And you will always see something like through level design. Your eye is always you're always guided towards quest and story missions, and you aren't just looking for icons and following things on maps. That's how I think open world should work. I still haven't even played Breath of the Wild though. I still don't have a Switch. One day I'm gonna wait for my OLEDs to be back in stock. But yeah, I also watched RDC World play Elden Ring, and that's what really made me want to play it because they aren't the best at games, but they were doing decent. So I was like, okay, if they're doing decent, I'll probably be decent at the game. And playing Sifu kind of makes me want to play Sekiro because the kind of like parrying system and the structure bar and all of that reminded me of Sekiro. And I go, you know what? A lot of people think Sifu is really hard, and I didn't think it was that hard, like at all. So maybe I'll be good at Sekiro, and I just don't know. But yeah, you can talk about your Elden Ring experience.
Okay, so something I love about Elden Ring off the bat, but also don't love. It's kind of hard to follow side quests because like you'll go talk to a character and they'll mention something. Like, there's this one character where she mentions like, oh, my men got taken by the spider and beheaded and yada yada yada. And then just like the conversation ended. I was like, okay. So I keep walking and then end my game, go off to work. Next day, I'm watching YouTube while I'm making coffee, watching an Elden Ring video about quests. And apparently that's one of the biggest side quests in the game. And I didn't even realize it was a side quest. And you have to go to the round table or the round hole, the keep, whatever like the hub area is. You have to go there and go talk to a specific NPC a certain amount of times. And I'm like, where was the indication that I had to do that?
Yeah, I've heard that criticism a lot for the game, that the quest design is strange and not very intuitive, and it leaves you confused more often than not.
It is, and I agree with that 100%. I kind of like it because it is a From Software style game, and it's a very From Software style way of doing quest
I
design.
think there's a way to like try to naturally guide you towards quest that isn't so obtuse. Like you still want them to be able to know that they're going on a quest.
Yeah, I absolutely. I feel like Destiny does a decent job of combining the two because at the very least there will be like something in your in your menu and in your objectives telling you that you have something to do rather than just being like you talk to an NPC and now you have a quest like secretly in your repertoire that you don't even know about. Like that's I don't know, but at the same time I don't necessarily hate it. I feel like I talk about this a lot. I feel like I want video games to really reward you for being like using your mind and using your brain and like figuring stuff out, and I feel like not a lot of them do, and this game is heavy on leaving you to figure it out yourself. So but almost to an unfair and unforgiving degree. But I really like this game. Again, the first story boss is apparently one of the most ridiculous bosses in the game, and I just thought I was terrible at the game, but apparently not.
like it got to the point where From Software had to put a there are little summoning areas where you can summon certain NPCs or even your friends, and they put down a little summoning thing for an NPC because it was so hard, so many people were dying and losing. They were like, okay, well, here's an NPC, and that NPC still sucks. Roger or whatever his name is, he sucks, or at least the one that helps me out in this boss fight does. He dies in like the first 5 minutes.
I saw
Or the
this.
first
Like I kept hearing a lot of people saying that one of the boss he fights is basically just Ganon, and I was like, what? And then I saw it. I saw a very brief clip of someone fighting him, and I was like, that is Ganon. But
I haven't gotten that far yet, so maybe it is, unless it's one of the world bosses, in which case I could probably find it. But like, I don't know.
it was. I recognize the character as being someone who appeared in one of the Elden Ring trailers, but I don't want to spoil.
He's probably a story boss.
So before we end this, I want to talk about Street Fighter 6. It was revealed. I stayed up for this reveal because it was heavily hinted, and I was like, yes, please be Street Fighter 6. I love Street Fighter, but Street Fighter 5 was booty cheeks at the beginning, at the very least. At the end, it got good, but it took a long time. And if I really wanted to be able to have the full experience, I would literally have to pay around the same price as the original game was to now have what it should have been from basically the beginning. The game launched with 16 characters, my nigga. 16 characters. Like, there were certain characters not on that, like not in the main roster, that would make you scratch your head. Like Guile wasn't in the main roster, Balrog wasn't in the main roster, Sagat, Akuma, like they were missing some pivotal characters. Who is it? E Honda. Like they were missing some very pivotal characters, and I'm like, bro, what's going on? And eventually they added all of those characters, and more, and some new ones, and some old ones that haven't been in the games for a while. But it took them a long time to make the game, to have the game reach a state to where it felt like it was actually a complete game rather than the unreleased mess that they initially released. So I'm hoping Street Fighter 6 is released in a finished state with over 20 characters, and they have the staples in there, along with some of the new characters and some returning characters. And the trailer showed that they are switching art styles. So they have this thing called the RE engine, Capcom. They use it for, it's obviously called RE engine because of Resident Evil. Naturally, they use it for Resident Evil. The first time they used it, I think, was for not Resident Evil 2 remake. They used it for that, but was for Resident Evil 7. Was the first time they used the RE engine. As far as I can, as far as my knowledge. And they used it for that. They used it for Devil May Cry 5. They used it for Resident Evil 8, and they used it for Resident Evil 3 remake. And they're using it for a lot of their games. And now they're going to be using it for Street Fighter 6, most likely, based on the style change, which a lot of people assumed that they were going to use that engine because it's a good engine. They've been using it for all their games. And they're going a slightly more realistic style, but still not fully realistic. Kind of like, it's still a bit of stylized, with like some proportions being what's the word I'm looking for? Just being abnormal, I guess. And I'll put up some images of what Ryu looks like in the current game. They made a costume that a lot of people said should be his base costume for a very long time. His base costume in this game, where he's essentially has no shirt and he has a beard. Everybody was like, Hot Ryu needs to be his main costume. Like this should be the evolution of Ryu. As he's also wearing like sandals now, which he never wears shoes. But yeah, and I'm mostly, I was about to say I'm mostly excited to see what Ken looks like because he is my favorite Street Fighter character. And he's they made him look less like, he doesn't wear this just a red gi anymore. He wears like a kind of like an Under Armour shirt, but his face is hideous in Street Fighter 5. And a lot of people are upset because Ken has not looked good in the game since like Street Fighter 3. So hopefully he looks good in this game. But if I'm being honest, I don't know if you've seen the trailer or seen any of the images. Have you, of like what Ryu looks like in that game?
I saw the trailer.
So
I've been watching.
I'm not gonna lie, I gotta be real. Like immediately I was like, man, what is Chun-Li gonna look like though? I mean,
Honestly, you're not lying.
I
You're
mean,
not. You're
what
not.
Cammy gonna look like though? What Jury gonna look like?
I was gonna say Cammy is immediately what came to mind for me. Cammy is my Street Fighter bae. Like,
Hunley came to mind first because she's easily the biggest character in all Street Fighter, probably all fighting games, really. And then Jury came second and Cammy because Jury is like my second main after Ken. She's my secondary. And she's easily my favorite of all the woman characters. But like, I'm just like, what the girls gonna look like though? Because if Ryu look like this, what they gonna look like? But that's all I really got to say about that. I'm interested. I'm excited. Hopefully it's great. Hopefully it's a good game. So I can get some friends to purchase it so we can play it. Because none of my friends ever want to play Street Fighter with me. So yeah, that's all I got. You know, as usual, I'm Dijon. You can find my ads below me. That's Amir. You can find his ad below him. Musker's ad below that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content. And then click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. I'm gonna go eat some Chipotle. Peace.